Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button right out of the gate. I would really appreciate it. And share the video and subscribe if you like my content. So just recently there was currently going on, there's a House bipartisan task force on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. And this is a document put out there by Congressman Clay Higgins, and it goes through a lot of the information on that day. I mean, it's absolutely amazing detail, but apparently he's going to be putting out a really, extensive document that has photographs and just really goes through the whole thing. So let's just start right here. I mean, a lot of this up here is just explaining what the grounds are, etc. AGR International is an internally owned corporation. However, AGR was born of a glass research scientist in Butler in 1927. In 1962, he sold his company, which became American Glass Research. AGR was incorporated into a larger international company in 2024, but the people on the ground at AGR are generationally connected to the company. One of those men is William Bellis, who assisted in my investigation at AGR for several hours on Monday, August 5th. He was 100% accommodating. According to my investigation, United States Secret Service, had never, prior to January 13th, assigned a counter-sniper team to a former POTUS, including Trump. I will not be 100% certain of this assertion without further investigation into documented records, but United States Secret Service counter-sniper teams stated clearly to ESU Command that they had never been deployed to a former POTUS event, nor had they heard of a prior deployment by other United States Secret Service counter-sniper teams. So I guess it's unusual to have Secret Service snipers at a former president's event. Butler County runs the radio communications tower out of their 911 call center. That is pretty much the way radio communications work across America, in every county, in every state. If the radios are interpretable, a visiting law enforcement agency is assigned a frequency, a channel for their operation while in the county. If the radios are not interpretable with the county communications tower, then the visiting agency is offered actual radios to use while they are running their operation in the county. So that's what I was thinking, that when the Secret Service is running an event, they should give every single other person that's working on the event a radio that is their own frequency, so they can all be communicating with each other instead of this crazy relay technique that they do. I mean, it's just really ridiculous. The United States Secret Service did not retrieve the radios that had been set aside for them by Butler County Tactical Command. The radio comms were properly and perfectly arranged during the extensive pre-mission planning on January 12th. The Butler County ESU commander personally reminded the United States Secret Service counter-sniper teams to pick up their assigned radios at the ESU command post RV, which was positioned according to planning and Butler Fairgrounds the following morning before 11 a.m. It didn't happen. Wow. So they were supposed to all have radios that could communicate with each other, but the Secret Service never picked them up, and that's where the complacency, nothing's going to happen here, forget it. Or is there something more nefarious? Radio traffic transmitted through a county radio tower 911 center is recorded. Chairman Kelly and I have a timeline and transcript of all local radio traffic as provided by ESU Commander Lenz. As provided by ESU Commander Lenz, Chairman Kelly and I also have other ESU and United States Secret Service January 13th briefing files, including the pre-mission briefing plan from ESU and the United States Secret Service counter-sniper pre-mission briefing graphs. There are videos circulating on the internet that appear to show a muzzle flash from inside the AGR building. Now, it sounds like this guy's gone down every conspiracy nutter. It's just a reflection inside there. From the window below Crooks' firing position on the roof of the AGR building. I carefully examined this window inside and out, and I interviewed the AGR employee who has worked in that small office area for many years. That window does not open and has never opened. The muzzle flash from inside the window was either digital fabrication or an iPhone light or iPhone camera flash reflected from the glass of the window. Well, there you go, everybody. That answers that question. Crooks did not have a ladder at AGR on January 13th. He accessed the roof by climbing onto an air conditioning unit. I reenacted his climb with no problem. I have not yet investigated Crooks' origins, how he came to be a shooter, how he manufactured a remote trigger bomb, etc. I have not reviewed the harvested evidence, nor have I examined his home, his vehicle, spoken with his family, his neighbors, his classmates, examined his computer, his emails, or his closet. I have not investigated the life and actions of Thomas Matthew Crooks outside of his actions on January 13th, but I will. We will. We're just getting started, Mr. Chairman. And then it says 8 shots were fired by Crooks from his firing and dying position on the AGR rooftop. The position provided excellent concealment for Crooks from the northern counter sniper team due to the foliage branch of 2 trees. Now, if you remember, we've been saying this since the first day of the shooting, how that tree blocked the snipers on that northern barn. And, again, it was blocked by the foliage. Crooks' firing position did not offer excellent concealment from the southern counter sniper team. However, it should be noted that the would-be assassin perfectly positioned himself to minimize the threat of counter fire from the ground or the United States Secret Service counter sniper teams. Crooks' firing position was also several feet back from the actual peak of the AGR rooftop. Well, that's interesting. By choosing this position, Crooks effectively minimized the skyline profile of his head and upper body. It's interesting because the video that I put out yesterday, you can see him during the time of the shooting, but I think you can barely see his head back there, and he's firing. And then I think when the shot missed him is when he sort of peeks his head up in the air. That's where my video starts. So he's trying to move around. That's just my opinion. And then the counter sniper on the southern barn shot him. Now let's get back to this. All 8 casings were recovered and all allegedly in proper possession of the FBI. Thomas Matthew Crooks' rifle is also allegedly in the proper possession of the FBI. I will need to examine all of the physical evidence that has been harvested by law enforcement and is in the possession of the FBI, all of it. The 9th shot, fired on January 13th, was from a Butler SWAT operator from the ground about 100 yards away from the AGR building. So the sniper position that I had just sort of guessed at a while ago was not correct. I thought he was on this building far away, but he's on the ground and probably like north of the north barn, in the grass over there. I don't really know exactly where he was. Maybe it explains it right here. But the SWAT operator, he shot from the ground about 100 yards away from the AGR building. Shot 9 hit Crooks' rifle. I mean, this is crazy stuff right here. It hit his rifle stock and fragged his face, neck, right shoulder area from the stock breaking up. The SWAT operator who took this shot was a total badass. When he had sighted the shooter, Crooks, as a mostly obscured by foliage moving target on the AGR rooftop, he immediately left his assigned post and ran towards the threat, running to a clear shot position directly into the line of fire while Crooks was firing 8 rounds. On his own, this ESU SWAT operator took a very hard shot. 1 shot. He stopped Crooks, and most importantly, I believe the shot damaged the buffer tube on Crooks' AR. I won't be certain of this until I examine Crooks' rifle, but I'm 99% sure, based upon reliable eyewitness ESU tactical officers who observed Crooks' rifle before the FBI harvested it as evidence. This means that if his AR buffer tube was damaged, Crooks' rifle wouldn't fire after his 8th shot. Crooks went down from the firing position when shot 9 was fired, and the SWAT officer was certain of his hit. According to the ESU SWAT operator, Crooks recovered after just a few seconds and popped back up. And I think that's where we see him in the video I put out yesterday, when you see him kind of pop up higher than some of the other images that we had. The 10th, and I'll put the video at the end of this if you missed it from yesterday. The 10th and I believe final shot was fired from the Southern Counter Sniper Team. There you go. I will not be 100% certain of this until further investigation. I'm quite sure that the United States Secret Service Southern Counter Sniper Team fired the killing shot, which, according to my investigation, entered somewhere around his left mouth area and exited the right ear area. Instant over. The entry-exit aligns with the United States Secret Service Southern Counter Sniper Team's position. Yes, it does. The FBI released all first responders that evening. Much to everyone's surprise, I interviewed several EMS cops, etc. The FBI released the crime scene after just 3 days, much to everyone's surprise. I interviewed several first responders who expressed everything from surprise to dismay to suspicion regarding the fact that the FBI released the crime scene so early after January 13th. It should be noted that the FBI was fully aware of the fact that Congress would be investigating January 13th. The FBI does not exist in a vacuum. They had to know that releasing the January 13th crime scene would injure the immediate observations of any following investigation. The FBI cleaned up biological evidence from the scene, which is unheard of. Cops don't do that ever. On January 13th, one of Crooks' shots hit a pressurized hydraulic line on a stage piece of heavy equipment. My effort to examine the hydraulic line evidence revealed that the tractor belonged to a rental company. It is unknown if that hydraulic line was harvested properly as evidenced by the FBI, but it certainly should have been. It remains a question for further investigation. I need to examine that hydraulic line because confirmation of the caliber of the rifle projectile that hit the line would be helpful to our investigation. That's how the examination of evidence works. We have to look at everything. Right, so I mean, they're kind of looking at it from the conspiracy angle, like trying to see if that matches what Crooks was shooting, and then, ooh, there's another shooter. Even though all 8 rounds are on the roof, all 8 shots sound exactly the same. The coroner report, but I guess it's good to prove things like that. That way you absolutely know, and it can shut down the conspiracies. The coroner's report and autopsy report are both late. As of Monday, August 5th, they were a week late. The problem with me not being able to examine the actual body is that I won't know 100% if the coroner's report and the autopsy report are accurate. We will actually never know. Yes, we'll get the reports and pictures, etc., but I will not ever be able to say with certainty that those reports and pictures are accurate according to my own examination of the body. Again, similar to releasing the crime scene and scrubbing crime scene biological evidence, this action by the FBI can only be described by any reasonable man as an obstruction to any following investigative effort. Please note, Mr. Chairman, that on January 23rd, the day that Crooks was cremated, both the Homeland Security Committee and the Oversight Committee had begun House Committee jurisdictional investigation into January 13th, and Speaker Johnson had already stated that he was forming an official congressional investigative body. Why then, by what measure, would the FBI release his body to the family for cremation? This pattern of investigative scorched earth by the FBI is quite troubling. That is a little bit weird, isn't it? You know, I mean, it is quite a few days. I mean, it's 10 days after the shooting. I guess why not let somebody come in and observe it? I guess, again, that helps stop the conspiracy theories if you have people that are credible people that can examine it and are deemed unbiased. Based on what the FBI has been doing in some circumstances, it's hard to know with them. It should be noted that my initial investigation on the ground in Butler was greatly assisted by the County Tactical Team Commander and the head investigator for the Butler County District Attorney's Office. Those gentlemen had nothing to hide, and they were 100% accommodating despite my rather intense demands on their time and resources due to the compressed schedule I was working with. My assessment of the local law enforcement overall performance on January 13th is that the ESU was very professionally developed and commanded. Yes, it was quite chaotic, and every single police officer reflects upon dangerous and extreme engagements, and we universally critique our own performance because crazy things happen on the street. However, my professional assessment for the purpose of this preliminary investigative report is that the Butler County ESU performed quite well under the circumstances. The owner, top management of the business AGR stayed with me and my 2 county investigators for 3 hours as I covered every inch I needed to inside, outside, on rooftop climbing, AC units, etc. He was very helpful and 100% squared away. I recreated every step of the county tactical team that was inside and every movement of Crooks outside, examined every window, etc. It was long and hot, and the AGR exec stayed with us. No area was restricted in any way. And that they're saying this because there's conspiracy nutters out there that think that the owners of the AGR building had something to do with it too. The water tower was cleared by drone January 13th a.m. by the county tactical commander, ESU commander Lenz himself. The water tower ladder was never lowered that day. Well, you never know. I mean, maybe the actual shooter used a jetpack and flew up in the air. Who knows? 2 local cops, non-ESU officers, were assigned to be parked in the water tower area as response units for traffic issues or whatever. They did leave that post, but only in the hour prior to shooting. There are videos on the internet showing a dark figure or shadow, and it is a shadow, on the water tower on January 13th. If there had been someone on the tower on January 13th, it would have to have been some top shelf operator way beyond anything I've ever actually seen. Regular SWAT operators or snipers would not have the skills and gear to quickly overcome the first 25 feet of no ladder and then climb the remaining 75 feet to a catwalk and then climb the quite intimidating and precarious dome vent access ladder. It is true that the vent area at the top of the water tower is the only point that would have allowed a clear line of sight to Trump and Crooks' firing position. I cited out this fact very carefully during my hours on the ground at the Butler Farm AGR, a water tower crime scene area. However, I do not believe it was possible for a second shooter sniper to be on top of the water tower on January 13th, nor have I seen any evidence that supports the theory of a second shooter. I'm not saying conclusively that there was not, or there was no other shooter somewhere, or that no other conspirators were involved in January 13th, but I'm saying that based on my investigation thus far, there were 10 shots fired on January 13th, and all shots are accounted for, and all shots align with their source. Crooks, 8 shots, 3 + 5, ESU SWAT. I mean, this sounds exactly like what I've been saying on my show a million times, and it's exactly the same thing. There's zero evidence that there was another shooter. Is there something else going on behind the scenes with Crooks, in some larger conspiracy that nobody's aware of? I guess it's still possible out there, but it's always just been one shooter. Crooks shot 8 times. Then a law enforcement, a SWAT person missed, but actually affected Crooks. And then the southern barn behind Trump, those snipers, the Hercules team, took out Thomas Crooks. And that was the 10th shot. I will be allowed to climb the tower at some point, perhaps next month, but it's quite a climb. The Butler County Water Works directors were very concerned about accommodating my climb, although they did agree to a later date. I'll have to return when I can coordinate with their safety team because we just ran out of daylight. But Butler County Water Works was cooperative, and I got a very close look at the water tower on Monday, August 5th. I guess what they were saying is, let's go down to the ground here and look at that. Yeah, so you'd have to be on the top of the tower, basically, right? They were saying to get a shot. Now the ladder down, there's a ladder on the side of it, I guess, but it wasn't even down on that day. So you'd have to have like a jetpack or a grappling hook to get up there. But I'm sure nobody would have seen that when they came down, right? Yeah, there is no shooter on the water tower, everybody. And so we know Thomas Crooks was right there, and we've gone over this multiple times. This is the northern barn. There's no shot because this tree was blocking it. But apparently a sniper, SWAT sniper on the ground somewhere, we don't know exactly where he was, but took a shot. Now maybe that was over here somewhere, like right over there, and took a shot at him. And that apparently fragmented the stock of his gun, hitting him in the face with like shrapnel, or just, I don't know if it was shrapnel, but like parts of the gun hit him in the face. And he went down quickly. Then he started putting his head up, looking around after that, and that's when the sniper team on this building shot him. Now originally this sniper team, this should be in the report too, that they were facing this direction when Crooks was getting onto the roof. They weren't even facing that way prior to him getting on the roof. Then they turned around 2 minutes before the shootings occurred and started getting set up and kind of looking over there, and then they took him out. But really interesting stuff in that document. I hope you guys found it interesting. Thank you very much for listening. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought. And again, hit that like button and please share the video and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.